so we're going?
Well, let's wait a second now, because you can edit this out. Okay. Now, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we want to edit it out anyway. Get a little panorama shot of what we can see from the car window, as much as you can. Over here, if you can, get the beauty of the hills and the green with the cows. And then pan back over slowly. Because basically, I want to show you guys what we see when we take the drive to Grant's dad's house, which is where we're going right now. As you guys know, his father passed away yesterday, and so the 4 adults that live here in the valley, Grant, his brother, and the 2 wives, we are going to start going through the house and getting it ready to clean up and sell and blah, 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 blah. So today's the first day of that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about hoarding and why hoarding, part of what hoarding means. So you can point the camera towards me, honey, so I'm not going to be looking at you because I'm going to be driving, but you can see my profile while I drive anyhow. So here's the deal. We were talking about how much space a person needs to live in. And part of that was about, we had passed a tiny home as we were driving this morning, and it isn't completely finished. It looks like a really nice tiny home. It's got its house wrap, no siding yet. And we were talking, I was telling him how much I've been thinking about creating housing, how much that's been on my mind. And I've told you guys about this too. I've been thinking about putting together some push-behind shelters for homeless. In fact, I mean, it's really been on my mind. I've done some sketching and I've made some lists and some stuff like that. So it's something I want to do when springtime gets here. But
to swing around that way again. This is the best of the view.
Oh, yeah, okay, swing around. Grant wants to show you the best of the view, and he's right. And you can see the snow-capped Sierra Nevadas there off in the distance, and this beautiful little valley with oak trees and granite rocks, and it's just lovely. Okay,
and
so
you want to watch the notch? The notch is sort of interesting. We're coming on a cut that goes through the granite. The road hasn't been widened here probably since it was built in the 1930s, and it doesn't give you any extra space for mistakes, and you're on a corner so you can't see if there's anything ahead of you, and you're traveling at 55 miles an hour, and sometimes rocks come down. Like last year, a rock came down right in the middle of this thing and hit a truck while it was driving through, right off of this slide of white granite. And this very narrow spot here is one of the more treacherous places along this highway.
yeah, it qualifies, I say, butt pucker, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, let me finish telling you guys the story of what we're talking about. So,
Back to you.
Thank you, darling. So, the idea of creating housing has been on my mind, and I was telling Grant, I'd like to put together some things that I can give away, the push-behind homeless shelters, and then perhaps he and I can actually build a tiny home together and turn around and sell it, make some money. We have the skills and the knowledge to do something like that. Believe it or not, I've framed up a building before. I know it's hard to believe, but I actually did. At least I framed the wall. Somebody else did the roof. But anyhow, I have a 24-inch framing hammer, by the way. Anyhow, a 24-ounce framing hammer.
24-inch should be, more of a mini sled.
Right. Well, I probably have one of those too. So anyhow, point is, I've been thinking about housing, which led us to thinking about how much room does a human being really need to live in? And of course, that's different from person to person. Now, Grant and I, being hoarders, we need a lot of room because we have our stuff that we're living amid. Now, as we go, getting ready to go through somebody else's stuff and figure out what's an heirloom, what needs to be put aside for a grandkid, and so forth, it occurred to me that part of what Grant and I do naturally is archive the history of our families. Not everyone is into archiving. They want to just throw everything out when somebody dies. Other people, like Grant and I, we're thinking about the future. We're thinking about what might our children and grandchildren want to own after we're dead that has to do with our families. And my sister, for example, could not care less about family heirlooms. She has a few things, but in terms of holding on to stuff, she doesn't care. My brother is the same way. My children, however, are both aware of heirlooms and the idea that having something that grandfather or great-grandfather or great-great-grandmother owned, that's an important thing to them. Now, neither of my children like to have a lot of stuff, but having the option is something that's an issue with them. And I think that's also probably true for Grant's niece and both of his children as well. So part of what we're doing is we're going to his father's house to act out our roles as conservators of family history. So that's one reason why people hoard. And you know, it's not so much an ownership issue as it is a stewardship issue. We hold on to things that we don't even use, and we know that when we die, our children will go through them and either be thankful and keep them, or they'll sell them, or they'll throw them out. And hang on a minute. And so Grant wants to show you something really briefly, and then I'll come back to the
I'm going to sweep it around. This is our view here of the mountains. As we come over, that didn't quite get that quickly enough.
Okay, so what's the difference between hoarding and archiving? Well, it's organization, basically. If you have piles and piles of stuff all intermingled, that's not archiving. That's not being faithful to the stewardship of your family heirlooms. However, if you organize things, you bag and tag, you've got somebody's name on it, you get stuff to your family members as they want them or as you can get them, and then at the end when you're dead, they go into your home or your container or your storage shed and they see everything with names on it or other things that maybe haven't been archived yet, and it makes it easy for them to make the decision if these family heirlooms are important to them personally or not. So that is my little dissertation on hoarding and how there actually is a reason for a lot of the hoarding that I do and that Grant does. So anyhow, just FYI, I'm thinking about stuff like that this morning as I head toward this Herculean task of helping his family put mom and dad's stuff in order. So I will say bye, and I think Grant wants to show you some more of the terrain.
Yeah, this is
Lodge.
This is the Black Hawk Lodge, and then over here on the hill, just in front, that item right there in the middle is the funniest looking tree. It's actually a pretend tree. It's a cell phone tower, but that's just what I wanted to say.